Hello, hello again. This is Dr. Yonnette. I am so happy to be with you this Saturday morning. It's a little nippy today. This week we had some 70-degree weather and sometimes even 60 something, but we've fallen right back into the 30s again. I guess what the famous saying is correct that March really goes out like a lion. And so it's struggling and fighting to stay here. So I'm sharing with you this morning, well covered and ready to go. So, what have you been up to this week? How has your week been? What kind of successes have you had? And, what fears have you conquered? One of the things that keeps us back from achieving is really fear. We are fearful that we're going to mess up, or we're going to be called names, or we're not going to look good in other people's eyes. What fears are you struggling with this morning? And that's what I want to talk to you about as I go through my regiment today. I did my cleanser already, so I'm just going to go quickly. I'm a little pressed for time, so I'm just going to go quickly this morning as we talk together. All right, so I'm moving on to applying my volume lifting serum. I want to put on some toning serum that's going to help me to equalize tone, and my lifting serum that's going to keep my face lifted and young. And after I'm finished with this, I'm going to add the day cream. So today I am talking about fears. What fears are holding you back? Holding you back from achieving your goal, your dream. And I have been, again, reading, listening to some literature that gives us some ideas as to how we can get rid of our fears. What are the fears that hold us back and how to get rid of them? So today I'm going to identify a few fears that we may have. And I want you, as I go down the list, that you check off which one is really holding you back and affecting you so that you can work on it. And this is advice or recommendation given by um, Dwayne Wayne Dryer. Wayne Dryer. So number one, our first and foremost fear, most of us are fearful of failing. Be you in high school, you don't want to fail your class, or you're in college, or there's a new business um, that you are looking to get started, and you are so fearful of failing. And a lot of times, because we are so fearful of failing, we don't do anything. It holds us back. And we don't get started. We don't get to the point where we are capable of getting. So the first fear, the fear of failing. And I want you to consider, when you think of failing, failing is really determined by the person you think you are. If you think that this is what you did and you did your best and you've covered all your grounds, then there's no failure. There's no failure here. It's just a lesson for you to learn from so that when you move forward in the next step of your venture, you know exactly what to do and what not to do. So the first fear is fear of failing. Are you dealing with that fear? Are you struggling with the fear of failing? Work on it and work to understand it from a different perspective and to get rid of it out of your vocabulary. Number two is the fear of disapproval. How many of us still in our teenage years, even as adults, how many of us are still looking for the approval of others? And this particular fear keeps us again from achieving at the level that we are capable. And today I want to advise you to be your own approval. Approve yourself. Don't wait for others to approve you. Know who you are, know what you bring to the table, and just work it. Get rid of that fear of approval. If you approve what you're doing, and you think you're doing it to the best of your ability, then don't bother about what others are saying. Okay? So, number three, your fear of suffering. Nobody likes to suffer. That's why in the hospitals and in various places, we try to do, we use medication to prevent suffering. We do not like to suffer. And that's a big fear that people have, especially when it comes to health and wellness, fear of suffering. Don't be afraid of suffering. In every suffering, there is a lesson that you need to learn. Is it that my body has not been cared for properly, so I'm suffering? Is it that I have not made a good decision, so I'm suffering? Is it that suffering brings me to a point where I am now able to be resilient because I've learned that lesson. I was talking to my son the other day, and he was saying that, there's so many lessons that he has learned that, the experiences where he suffered have transformed him into this great human being. And so he's not bothered anymore by these things that children his age are still struggling with. So fear of suffering. What's the next fear? The next fear I want to talk to you about is fear of isolation. And as people get older, that's one of their biggest fears. I've spoken to some of my friends, and they've said, "Oh, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be isolated as I grow older." But remember that there is so much in you that you can be happy about and that you can work with, that you don't have to be caught up with the isolation fear. The fear of isolation, just get rid of that. You are never, ever, ever alone. And if you're a Christian, then you know that God is always with you, working in you what he needs done. So you don't need to be afraid of isolation. You have a support system. Okay, now here's another fear of looking foolish. Fear of looking foolish. So I'm never ever going to do that particular activity. I am not getting on the stage. I am not singing because I am going to look foolish. You know, how do you look foolish in an activity that you feel confident in what you're doing? You can't look foolish, and the foolishness only comes from your eyes. And if people think that you look foolish when you do an activity, just ignore them. You do it because you're confident that this is a particular thing that you're supposed to be doing, and you do it with that confidence, and it's going to radiate the energies from what you perform will radiate to others, and they'll be blessed. So don't look for the instances where what you do, don't focus on whether you're looking foolish or not. Just focus on whether this is something you're convinced that you need to do. All right, let's look at another fear. What's another fear that you struggle with? Fear of success. Can you believe that? Some people are so afraid of success that they avoid it. They get to the point where they're almost able to cross over into the success that they have been seeking. And then they abandon ship and move away from the activity because they are so fearful of success. Now, what have you been doing? What have you been doing that you initially thought was so important that needed to be done, and not just needed to be done, that needed to be done by you? What have you been doing that you were convinced needed to be done by you. And because of fear, because you fear success, you have abandoned ship. You need to look at these fears. Look at these fears and determine where you are. And I want you to pledge today that you're going to get rid of any fear that is keeping you from achieving your goal. Get rid of those fears. Remember, if you are a Christian, the scripture says that perfect love casts out all fears. So as I talk about loving your skin and loving yourself, if you love yourself completely and know that God has given you this abundance in what you are capable of doing, and He's created you in His image, then you have nothing to fear. So go forward, attack your dreams, stand on your stage and say your thing and be loud and bold about it and be confident that you are living your purpose. This is Dr. Yonnette. Thank you for joining me today. I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. Also, join me on Facebook and let's connect. Let's connect. Share with me what you have been struggling with, and let's connect and support each other to achieve our purpose in life.